Yeah, no. Okay.
Here, you're ready.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the special study session of July 7th, 2025 at 6:42 PM. Councilmember Cole is absent, so per council rules, she notified me and the city administrator. Do I have a motion to excuse her?
I make a motion to excuse Pat Cole.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
Second from council member. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? Passes unanimous. All right. Go
Thank you,
ahead,
Mayor.
Jason.
Tonight, we have just one item on this special study session to talk about the parking garage construction mitigation. Get our screen shared here and turn it over to Ryan. Before we get started, just let you know, we are looking for some policy guidance from council and input. Depending on what your input is, we'll determine if we need to prepare any formal action for council to take in the future. And this is something we've been working on for several months now. I'll let Ryan take it away and go from there.
All right, thank you. I'm Ryan Windish, your Community and Economic Development Director. And we're going to talk about parking garage mitigation plan. And as Jason was saying, I'll give some background on this and then go through some options that staff's talked about in terms of how to mitigate for the parking. And then obviously a discussion with council. And then, as Jason said, we're seeking council direction. As I know, many of you know, the Sound Transit is in the process of constructing a brand new parking garage over top of about 200 existing spaces. Ultimately, it's going to net a lot of parking in town. Sound Transit's parking mitigation plan through this construction process has been to point people to the Puyallup station if they're having trouble finding a place to park, or park at the Bonnie Lake Park and Ride and take the commuter bus that runs from the Bonnie Lake Park and Ride to the train station that matches up with the train. And in their conditions for approval for the garage, what they were looking at is the capacity up there at the park and ride lot. So once it reaches 80% capacity or above on average over a 5-day week, then they would need to look for additional parking in downtown Summit. We have not hit those capacities yet in a post-pandemic world. Not sure if we will. Since February 2025, when the garage went under construction, you probably all noticed that commuters are parking across the street in what was formerly the old Red Apple Market site. It's currently owned by a developer. They own the entire block, and they have graciously allowed people to park there the last several months. And it holds about 200 cars. So it's been a good fit until now. So we also in 2024 had a commuter shuttle that was running between the Bill Heath Sports Complex in anticipation of there being a parking issue downtown when they started construction. However, nobody used it because they could park for free from the Red Apple Market site. The new parking garage won't be completed until next summer at the earliest. I'm not sure if they're delayed or not, but if you go by there, it's not as far as long as we hoped it would be. So we're looking at probably at least another 12 months before the garage is open. So this is an air photo of the Red Apple Market site circa about April, midweek. And yes, I did count all the cars just to see how many it holds. And the south half, no parking starting Thursday. And it will be about 80 to 90 cars are in that space. What the work that they're gonna be doing is part of remediating soil contamination that's in the, well, it's a plume that's on the area that we're talking about. They need to install some equipment to continue to clean the soil through air sparging, it's called. And so they are under a volunteer remediation agreement with the Department of Ecology. They've been getting pressure from the Department of Ecology, so they want to move on this. They gave us notice a few weeks ago that they were signing contracts with a developer, excuse me, with a company to actually do the work, and that they would begin after July 10th. So we are in the process of looking at options for additional parking. So the northern part of the parking lot will remain open, as far as I understand, for commuter parking and others to park there. And this is all, again, the graciousness of the developer. He doesn't charge for parking. He doesn't regulate parking either. It's been a real benefit to everybody, not just the commuters. But now we're going to see some changes. And in some of these options, we're going to talk about the current restricted parking zone situation we have in our downtown. So RPZs are a permit process for residents who live on these. So most of the streets that are marked in blue here are around the train station and the downtown, and they allow for up to 3-hour parking without a permit. But if you want to park longer than that, you need to have a permit and you need to be a resident in the area. You also get a guest pass if you're a resident as well. So as you can see, much of the area is kind of locked down as RPZ, clear out to Wood Avenue. So this was all kind of, this is 2017, 2018 work that we did. Parking pre-pandemic was a huge amount of pressure on the streets. And so we kind of went big, to say the least. So the blue areas, you can park over 3 hours if you have a permit. And then we also do, one of the challenges as we get into these different options will be time parking and enforcement. And I'll I might have the chief talk now.
Yeah.
Talk now about the challenges of time to park enforcement.
So one of the two primary challenges, and they're listed up there, is one is staffing resources and technology, available technology. So if you flash back in your memory to Ryan's prior slide showing the blue RPZs. So those are the neighborhoods where we have parking restrictions. Then put on top of that, we've got several downtown lots that also have timed parking restrictions that serve a very specific purpose, as do these RPZs in residential neighborhoods, both for the school and for the Sound Transit. Then on top of that, you have to look at our industrial park, that we have made it a strategic plan to provide for an industrial manufacturing center, but it has very limited parking. So we've got the pressures that we have downtown times 10 in our MIC with very limited semi-truck parking and a high volume of traffic. So we've got one full-time service officer, community service officer that shares their responsibility between transports, fingerprints, code enforcement, and parking enforcement. We have police officers 24/7. They're all very capable to also enforce traffic and do so. But that's more kind of complaint generated. And then we also have other parking, abandoned vehicles, RVs. So needless to say, we've got a lot of demand. Most of the violations occur are on the spot violations. You see somebody parked too close to a driveway, too close to a crosswalk, too close to an intersection, blocking a mailbox, blocking a bicycle lane. Those are easy to enforce. Photo document, write the citation, issue it. These all require individual proof that each vehicle stayed in the restricted area beyond the time that was permitted by ordinance. That's very labor intensive. And we have not found a magic solution of license plate reading technology or ticket processes like what they use in private lots that are more efficient way of managing that, other than good old fashioned chalk the tire, come back 3 hours later, come back 4 hours later. And then there's all other kinds of challenges with that, with just moving a vehicle from space A to space B. Or rolling it a few feet forward to restart the clock. So there's a lot of challenges to enforcement with specifically time, right? The other parts of our code are much more easier to enforce and much more straightforward to enforce.
And the current parking fine is $45.
Correct. We changed it from 38 to 45, probably about 5 years ago. And that was based on a study of comparable jurisdictions for civil infractions. I recently revisited, I think, last year, and we're still pretty much, it's something that most cities aren't frequently adjusting. So we're still current as far as where we fall in line with our peers, Auburn, Puyallup, Tacoma, Lakewood.
So what are some options? And I'll tell you, there's no great option. There's no magic silver bullet, no magic here. This is why we're in front of council. It's all about policy. So option one is just do nothing. We let the commuters find their place to park. We follow Sound Transit's lead, which is park at a park and ride lot or park at the Puyallup station. Plenty of capacity there. And we do our best, as the chief's kind of laid out, to enforce RPZs, to enforce parking in our public downtown area. The real downside of this, though, is the Sumner commuter. Councilmember Cole lives in River Grove. She wants to ride the train. She lives in Sumner. She can't find a place to park maybe around the station. Or somebody who lives in East Sumner and they typically maybe drive just across town. That person is probably not going to want to drive to Puyallup or drive to Bonnie Lake Parking. So to address that, we have option 1A. That would allow all Sumner residents to park in RPZs with permits. It would benefit Sumner residents who live here, but aren't close enough to walk. But again, enforcement is part of the process. RPZ enforcement. Issuing permits also creates administrative burden. People need to come in, they need to come into the police department, they need to bring their registration and whatever else they need to get RPZ permit. And it also kind of begins to set up an expectation of future guaranteed. So that's policy things to be out there. Option 2 would be just can remove some or half of the RPZ restrictions to allow for more commuter parking on the street. So this could be temporary, where we open up maybe half of a street for commuter parking and then keep restrictions on the other half of the street. Because if you open up a street and there's a high demand, you could end up with it packed solid with commuters. And now if you're a resident, you know, where does the person who's going to clean your carpet or come for a visit, where do they park? Where do delivery vehicles park? So focus on one side of the street or the other better. So opening up RPZs obviously would provide some relief to commuters. It sets a plan in place to reduce or eliminate RPZs in the future when Sound Transit Garage is completed. Less pressure on public parking lots as well. Of course, the downsides is still enforcement and then the residents' perception of kind of winners and losers. Like, why did you put this on my side of the street? Why don't I have my permit working on my side of the street? Why is it on the other side of the street? So I'm going to hear probably potentially some of those comments from the residents. Where might this happen? I kind of have driven around a little bit during kind of high commute times and parking, and these are kind of my recommendations. the green areas. So this might be kind of hard to read. The main road running east and west is Thompson. If you go on down and look at Thompson Street, not too many people parking on Thompson, especially on the south side. And this would be residents parking there. I think there's probably a lot of opportunity on the south side of Thompson to open that up and maybe leave the north side of Thompson closed for permit only parking. If you look at Cherry Street south of Thompson, there might be 3 or 4 cars parked on that, almost that entire stretch that's green there. Could still choose one side or the other maybe if that was necessary, or for a stretch you could probably have both sides and not be very impactful to the residents. And then the other streets, you know, same sort of thing, kind of one side of the street or the other. As you get further away from the station, going to be a little less obviously demand. I can tell you pre-COVID though, there were people parking out several blocks and you'd see them literally pull a scooter or a bicycle and they would ride to the train station and then so these would be potentially temporary changes to the RPZ areas to allow for those 80, 90, 100 cars to find a place to park on the street. Questions?
Have you looked at Mountain Circle? Because I know a lot of people park, there's like a vacant lot there on the corner and a lot of people parked there in the past.
Great question. Yes, we've looked at Mountain Circle. I didn't include that on here. But that would also be another spot for probably, yeah, there's probably half a dozen cars to park in. And then parking mitigation option number 3, remove all station RPZs. So this is kind of going big in terms of just opening up the streets for parking. Enforcement would be limited to one non-timed parking violations. As the chief was mentioning, the ones you can kind of ticket right on site. You're too close to a corner, you're in front of a driveway. There would be no administrative burden for RPZ passes. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of administrative operations have to happen to issue permits. Could be the potential future condition. So when the garage is done, eliminate RPZs. It could eliminate a lot of pressure on public parking lots. It's business friendly. And then the cons would be the potential to increase the burden on residents closest to the station, especially the ones really close to the station would have, like I said, probably park solid. And then a potential increase in commuters. So we're back to option 1 where we just kind of go the tough love course and we're like, go find your own solutions. You can go to Puyallup, you can go to, that is an option that is kind of a non-friendly to the commuter option, right? It's them having to solve their own problems and maybe go park someplace else. Here it would be welcoming potentially more commuters than maybe we have now. Those are 3 options. Like I said, nothing's perfect. We do plan to, once the transit garage is open, to come back and do a parking study and look at the entire downtown. And it's amazing when you dig into the science behind parking and the psychology behind parking, what all the options can be, that you're properly utilizing different spaces for different needs. Anyway, we're going to be studying this after the garage is complete because our entire parking pressures downtown will change once that parking garage is done. We are communicating. Turn this one over to Carmen. We are communicating with those folks who are going to be cars.
Not just decorative. Yes, we already got to jump on this because we got this in front of you as fast as we could. However, as we're saying, this change happens on Thursday. So we went ahead and put it in the e-news with what we did know last week, try to get to commuters. It will run again with any changes this week. And, you know, that's also saying if you make a selection, like Ryan had already mentioned, we may or may not want to advertise, especially for pulling RPZs, because I have a suspicion, there are other commuters who have already moved to alternate locations, and we might recreate the flood of cars looking for parking in Sumner of the change. So that's another piece you may or may not want added to the communication. Right now, it's just about the parking lot half full, half empty situation that we're losing 80 to 90 spots on that site. Appreciate the developer. The northern half remains available, which probably means those commuters will be fine unless the later commuters start going earlier and we get a little bit of a was the game musical chairs for the spots that are left. We are putting it on social. I put it on X today. Sound Transit. I've also contacted Sound Transit and they said they would see what they could do with their communications. We also plan to just put flyers on the cars. That is the most direct way to get to the people who are parking there. I don't believe probably all of them are carefully following everything the city of Sumner puts out. Our original goal was Wednesday, and then we saw there were raindrops on the forecast for Wednesday, and nobody can read a sodden mess. So we are probably aiming for tomorrow when it's nice and sunny and dry, and we can put flyers on all the cars and warn them of what's coming. It's a former long distance commuter. The last thing you want is to be surprised. Second to losing your parking spot is being surprised that you lost your parking spot when you're trying to get to work on time. That's on the website.
All right, any questions?
Discussion.
We have to have some discussion.
Yes. To make a note here.
You wanna go?
Questions, yeah.
Go ahead, Barbara.
So are they going to like put up a fence around the parking lot so that Wednesday, so people don't, because people come to work at 4:35 in the morning. I am aware of a lot of the traffic patterns, so.
Yeah, I would anticipate they're going to put up a fence and they're going to start the actual construction work on site on Monday. So I'm thinking Thursday, Friday is gonna be getting the fence up. So, and Thursday's probably, I'm gonna guess, is gonna be having some people give us I don't know exactly how they're gonna do it. If I were them, I think I'd put the fence up on Saturday when there was nobody parked there.
Right.
But I'm not sure exactly what they're planning on doing. All I know is their contract starts on the 10th. And I've been told they'll actually start the boring and the work they're gonna be doing Monday.
Yeah, and then I was just thinking, like if you opened up like Cherry and Thompson for parking and then you got a bunch of complaints, then couldn't you come back and, maybe put RPZs back?
Yeah,
for
things
part
are
of those
flexible
areas?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
Do we know kind of, well, I guess we wouldn't know this. I was trying to figure out what percent of people that are parking in that lot are actually Sumner residents, but we don't know because most people in Sumner walk to that station. I see them walk. I'm concerned about Thompson and safety. I lived on it for a number of years and our next door neighbor got hit trying to get in her car one morning. So I think we would almost have to make sure people go the speed limit on that road. I used to call it the Thompson Freeway. That's why I moved off of it. So that's a little concerning to me. Do we know who owns that Mountain Circle lot? Is that somebody's private property that we're suggesting people can park on?
No, on
Not
the
on
street.
that day.
Oh, right on the street inside?
Yeah.
Yeah, right in there.
But there's no house on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have seen people park there as well. I'm probably leaning towards, let's do nothing for a bit and see what happens. We're assuming we're gonna have a major issue, but we don't know. I mean, most people are adults and I know if I was going somewhere and if somebody said, well, I can't park here now, I would try to figure out where I can park. Potentially, and we could kind of see what the issues are and then adjust and pivot accordingly, but versus thinking we need to go solve for an issue that we don't even know what the issue is. We know we have a parking issue. We already know that, just even with that lot there, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. I would like to see what's gonna happen. Personally.
Cindy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I just want to echo some of that. I think I really feel like public feedback is really important. So I think I would err on the side of not doing anything and just kind of compiling when we get feedback from people. If there's some concerns, we can have a little more information to make a decision. I do think my anticipation is having people, I think one of the things that would concern me as a resident would be people overnight parking or being like, some car shows up in front of your house and stays there for multiple days, that'd be uncomfortable. I think that the way we enforce it, I think we use the resources we have, we do the best we can, we keep track of the feedback from the community, and then we kind of come back and see if we need to make adjustments. That'd be my preference as well.
Well, how about down here, Matt?
Ryan, can you remind me the RPZ restrictions? Are those just a Monday through Friday, kind of 7 to 5 or 8 to 5 or what?
Yeah, Monday through Friday.
Okay,
Yeah, it's enough time to where, it's most of the day.
okay. Would we anticipate with any of these options that there'd be impacts to businesses in the downtown area? People, I don't know if they would be trying to park on Main Street or anything like that for the extended period of time, but what's the thinking around that piece?
So our downtown parking, on-street parking is mostly 3 hours as well. So it's really not gonna do you any good from a kind of a parking enforcement standpoint to be parked on the street. We would anticipate, since the public parking lots, and they have time restrictions as well, don't get me wrong, but they're also, you're here at 5:30 in the morning. There's plenty of places to park in the public lots. So I know in some of the chief's comments in our conversations we've had, he believes there'll be some added pressure for commuters to be parking in the public parking lots downtown. We take the do nothing approach for sure, which is back to enforcement. It's all kind of part of that.
Right, okay, yeah, I'm equally concerned about Thompson if we did open that up. It's seemingly a wide road, but it's a busy road. And people probably go a little bit too fast down that as Deputy Mayor is mentioning, so yeah, I have concerns about that, and I don't know if there would be some additional signage that would be effective. I'm not sure if people pay much attention. If they don't pay attention to the speed limit or the stop sign, then anything else probably doesn't help. I'm open to the concept of a temporary, lifting of RPZs, maybe like Cherry, like you mentioned, Brian, sounds like there's just not many people using that, so I don't know if there's a kind of split the difference type of thing where a couple of streets we open up, and we maybe don't get to the full 90 spaces, but we are coming down off of summer here in the next couple months. I hate to be saying that when we just started summer in the area, but like, as far as the big attractions and events, we really just got a couple more months. I think commuting probably dies down a little bit when you hit the fall and the winter as well. So I can see a do nothing approach, as Andy and Carla have both mentioned. I'm also open to a temporary lift on some of the RPZs in a couple spots where we feel good about it and the safety isn't as much of an issue. But I'd love to hear if anybody else has any other thoughts.
Greg?
I do. Just real quick, I don't know if you know this, Ryan, but the Bonnie Lake park and ride at 80%, is it even close to that, or does anybody know?
Last parking data we got, they were at 40%.
Oh, yeah.
Today, arguably, it's been a light day. I mean, our lot over here was not full today, but I drove up there, counted cars, 348 spots there, 67 cars there today, 19%. So we're nowhere close to 80% up there, and I don't anticipate that we will likely hit 80% during the construction period.
Yeah. I was just curious.
Unless all these cars go up there.
Yeah. And I mean, personally, for me, I wouldn't drive up there and park and then take a bus down. It seems kind of silly. The RPZs, and I have an RPZ in my house, but mine is from the school, because I live by the high school. So that's a little different, I think, than downtown or Main Street. I don't see lifting an RPZ down there and then people parking at Bonnie and Academy and walking that far, but maybe they will. So I'm more leaning towards some type of moratorium, maybe on lifting RPZs, or all of them, citywide, but the ones that pertain close to the bus, center station, I think would be applicable. So I don't know. And as far as, I agree with Thompson, I lived at Thompson and Cherry for 22 years, and that place was a nightmare. I mean, as far as traffic, and that was years ago. I've been on Bonnie and I have for 21 years now, so even back then, before the sounder station was even there hardly, but, so I mean, I'm leaning more towards, some type of moratorium, I guess, if that's feasible. Temporary, because once the bus garage is open, that sounder station is open, the parking garage. Pretty much the downtown parking should be, resolved, I would think, for 550, till that's maxed out, but I don't know what that'll take. But that's kind of my thoughts on it anyway.
So Councilmember Ranky, so I'm clear, so you're talking about lifting RPZ restrictions in the area temporarily to free up on-street parking?
Yeah.
You're in favor, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm leaning towards. I think this is a temporary problem, I would think. Till that garage is up, 550 stalls. There's 200 here. That's not even half. I know there's others that park around, but. I don't know.
Barbara, go ahead.
So on your flyer, what kind of information are you gonna have on it?
For now, unless I get different direction tonight, same as what was in the e-news, that starting Thursday, you lose the southern half of that lot, that the northern half is still available. I also did qualify that this is not official parking. I think some people still have in their head when the city owned that lot, and
Yeah.
they think it's official and they're owed spots or something like that. So trying to reset that expectation, as Ryan said, that this is private land that the private owners were very gracious to let people use. And then I did, because that is the official line right now, the Bonnie Lake and the Puyallup lots.
Okay, good. And for me, I would see about lifting the RPZs on Thompson, Cherry, Mountain Circle. Because like on Thompson, our block, we can't park in front of our house. But down the next block or two, you can. So, and there's really nobody parking on the street. And, you know, up to Cherry, and then I think going north and south, Cherry would be a good option, and then like part of Mountain Circle, or just see where, and I would say, why don't you give it a week or two and kind of see where people are gravitating to, and then go from there. It's, you know, if there's really something we need to address, then, you know, perhaps it's something we could do.
Okay. I agree with what's been said so far. I guess I'm just really thinking about safety, and I really want to see what the issues are that might arise. I think that we're speculating on what we think may or may not happen. I am concerned in the fall when kids go back to school, with kids coming out from between parked cars. I think we have to be real about that, but that's because I live down by the school, but a lot of these kids walk. So I want to make sure that's not an issue. And then I have a hard time making a decision without the public feedback. Because if I lived somewhere and all of a sudden I've got a slew of cars in front of me, I might do the exact thing, which is, why are we in front of my house? I like to have people over maybe through the week, or maybe I have a Bible study of ladies that come to my house and now they can't park there. So people have lives that we're impacting, you know, with this decision. So that's kind of weighing heavy on me. But then the businesses in town, I know businesses right now, people can't even hardly park on Main Street, and the businesses aren't getting the people in there because people won't stop to try to park. So I think we've got kind of this full gamut, so I kind of want to see what's going to happen over these next couple of weeks. I would hope there'd be some courtesy. I don't even know if we have to lift the RPZ, because I think people might say, hey, I've got to park here. Maybe we just don't give them a ticket for a while. I mean, it's one of those things where, looking out, I'm trying to figure out, you know, how can we make sure we set ourselves up for some sort of positive outcome? So I'd like to see what the real issues, what they are, and let's just see what happens. Let's see where people park.
See what happens, see what kind of complaints we get.
Yeah, because I mean,
Problems.
people might, as much as we want to say people won't go up to Bonnie Lake and bust down, they might. We just don't know that they won't. We don't know what people are gonna do. So safety is just a big deal for me. I'm concerned about some of the safety aspects. Because when people do come at 4:30 in the morning, it's gonna start getting dark. So, you know, it's gonna be dark and we have a lot of kids. So those are kind of my concerns, and I want the businesses to stay viable in the town as well.
Andy, do you have any? You done? Pat, you good?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of see what happens, but I don't want it to be a burden on the citizens here either. So we need to keep an eye on it, and especially the businesses parking lots out back. I think, I've been through this all trying to get these RPZs right, and we've really done a gambit of all around, so I'd like to kind of look and see what's happening and then maybe address it at that time. You don't know if they're only running 30 or 40% up in Bonnie Lake, they might start using it, so, thank you.
Yeah, I kind of summarized what I heard from a staff perspective. I have Kenna and Ranky, you guys are thinking that maybe some strategic lifting of RPZs to give us some relief. Councilor Potato, I heard you say that, but I also heard you say maybe some more data. Bowman, Elpers and Clargett. Pause, get more data and then bring it back for future action. So what I'm hearing is there's more of a desire to pump the brakes, see what happens, and then be more strategic about how we deal with it. I think we can commit from a staff perspective, looking to the chief here, that we will we'll focus our enforcement primarily on the business parking lots. Right, which is something that is very important to all of us here and a little easier to keep our eye on. And then do complaint based on the RPZs and keep our eye on it and kind of learn where people are gonna, it's like water, right? Where are people gonna go? Where they're finding that parking and decide how best to bring it back to you for consideration.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I would say, that all sounds good to me, Jason. I walk my dogs a lot, so I'll keep my eyes open to see where people are ending up and report back. Not that you can't do your jobs well. But I'd also, to a few points made, public, like, please get in touch with us, please get in touch with staff. As this develops and let us know if there are things that we're not seeing or you're noticing something, because I do think that's an important part of the process. So I know we're all available, email us, we'll get in touch and yeah, because more eyes on this stuff. I do think it could just kind of clear itself up. I know a number of folks that they live in Bonnie Lake, they could easily get in the park and ride, but they want to come down here, they don't want to do the shuttle bus. It's just easier for them to just hop into their car and go, instead of waiting 5 or 10 minutes. So, some of those folks might just have to kind of like make a different choice for a little while, and I think that's probably fine, so.
Just one point, thank you, Councilmember Kenna. If any council members get emails or phone calls about this, please forward them on to me and I'll make sure we get them forwarded to our file. Just because a resident or somebody emails you, we do not see that unless you forward it to us.
I was gonna say that, Barbara, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Bonnie Lake bus is timed correctly, you know, with the train and, you know, it's down and then it drops people off just as the time for the, you know, train to go. And then it's also there to pick people up. So I think, you know, people might not be aware how efficient that system is and it's going all the times.
That's good. Everybody good? Good? You get what
Yeah,
you need?
thank you, and we'll keep our eye on it, and I'm sure we'll be back
Yeah, I'm sure we
later
will.
this summer or early fall.
Okay, I just don't want to.
Yes, you sure can.
I guess, one thought for me is just, I don't wanna say leniency or like, but since this is kind of a transition and we're kind of just doing it from the last minute Thursdays in 2 days, a couple days. So I guess some kind of leniency from PD and for tickets or whatever, maybe warnings or something, maybe for a few weeks and let people know type thing rather than, whack everybody with a $45 ticket, but that's just kind of me. It's kind of a last minute thing. I mean, if we had 3-4 months to think about this and figure it out, but this is kind of pretty quick. I don't want to have a bunch of pissed off people coming and say, we got a $45 ticket. I had nowhere to park, but I had to go to work, but that's the only other thing I have, so thank you.
We
Okay,
have the ability to do warnings. Like Jason said, I think our initial focus is to enforce the timed lots versus the street RPZs. And people that live in that area are very aware that there's a garage being built, so it is temporary. Hopefully they'll be a little bit graceful in their wanting to reserve the front yard street parking.
I think so too. All right, we have no executive session tonight. And I will adjourn this meeting at 7:22.